another movie review, and it's pretty much for like I said last night I was gonna do this one, and I meant to see this a few weeks ago, but I just forgot to talk about it. Of course, the movie Eternity is a romance comedy directed by David Freyne, and it stars, of course, Miles Teller. For those of you who do not know who he is, he was in Whiplash with J.K. Simmons, and also in the most recent Top Gun Maverick. He has pretty much been the biggest upcoming rising young actors in the game. Elizabeth Olsen, a huge fan of, and then of course another young star in Callum Turner. In an afterlife where souls have 1 week to decide where to spend eternity, Joan is faced with an impossible choice between the man she spent her life with and her first love, who died young and has waited for decades for her to arrive. So yeah, Joan, played by Elizabeth Olsen, is pretty much caught in absolute moral compass, a moral dilemma, where she pretty much is in a deciding factor because the man that she spent her whole life with, eternity with, in the beginning part of her time, um, who in retrospective sense and terms, she was married to him for pretty much like basically close to 50 years. And this is the same guy, Larry, who ended up fighting in the war, in the Korean War. And so he pretty much and actually died on the front lines in the Korean War, at the time allegedly. And then so she's pretty much end up having him end up returning in that side of the film, and that pretty much puts her in all perspective now. And then once she ends up spending when she ends up spending time with her first love, when she ends up spending time with her first love, who he ends up being, and she ends up being her first love, who ends up being probably who probably ends up being one of her first loves that she ends up becoming attracted towards, you know, after the fact that she was trying to get over her she was trying to get over her first love. She wanted to try to rekindle something. Wanted to try to rekindle something. She wanted to try to rekindle a full committed blown relationship. And now she ends up getting caught in this moral compass, in this dilemma, like I said earlier on. And it's pretty much a thing where she ends up get caught in such a bind because she doesn't know where she wants to go, who she wants to choose with. It's either between Larry, played by Miles Teller. Yeah, it's either between Larry, played by Miles Teller, or Luke, played by Callum Turner. Like, it's either between one of them she wants to choose, but they end up going into so much of a triangle. You know, they had to do so many like pointers and views and like initiation, pointers and like views, and just try to see what each one of them has. Luke and Larry both are trying to see what they have in portion or in common with Joan, like trying to find like common hobbies or like habits or things that they wanted to be fully committed towards. And normally, typically, I'm not really the most advocate when it comes to romantic comedies, but this just it doesn't just feel like your stereotypical romance comedy. I feel like this film really is trying to encompass and engulf into knowing and understanding about the circumstances in life, knowing the circumstances in life. Don't ever try to go in and miss out with things that you end up fully being weighted on. You don't want to miss out on the littlest and the beautifulest things and the littlest things in life that could end up slipping right before your very eyes. And you got to be careful on like, not being fully embrace, not to try to always fully embrace the death of anybody else's like um demise, but at the same time try to find the happiness and try to find the littlest things, the positive outcomes and the happiness of the things in life, because you never know what could they be the things that you could be missing out on, but you never could know the understanding and the confinements and the circumstances of being fully persistent and fully perceptive and persistent and omnipresent in a way that love can certainly tie in between one and can put you also and can put you in a conundrum. So that's pretty much what I gathered from the premise and the message in the film. It's like pretty much you live in the moments, and you got to be in that moment, in the spur of the moment, and sometimes you make rash and harsh decisions, because love can be that burden, and then love sometimes can be a thing where it's just it, it could be your best life. Love can be your best burden, or it could be your biggest treasure that you end up finding and end up realizing that a thing that you could be missing out on. And I love that about the movie. And as far as the messaging goes, I thought the performances by Callum Turner as Luke, I thought Miles Teller as Larry, and then of course Joan played by Elizabeth Olsen. I thought they had great performances, and I thought they had something to say. Had really good. I thought they had really good chemistry. All three of them did. The jokes in the film did not always 100% land when they did, but when the jokes did land, you did really feel something as far as the energy, the weight, and the holding and the commitment of it. And knowing that sometimes, you know, in the aftermath or in the afterlife, and that feeling like the weight could be over fulfilling and over fulfilled. It's not always the one. It's not always the weight and the feeling of it that you sometimes can be fully committed to your first love, or the one that you married. In this case, Joan feels like she's so flustered because one love comes after another, and then another love, and then her love that and her lover and her husband that she's with committed now, has to really decide, or really have to put himself in bare bones in front of her. Uh, and so those are the things that you got to really look at in messaging wise, that you really look at when you're watching the film. And I really enjoyed that about it. So like I said, the main positives I would say is of course the performances and the messaging I thought was really good. Um, just self fully committed about love, and self fully committed about your own, your own fulfilling prophecies and dreams and goals and destinations. And then also, I really did like was the visuals and the camera work. I thought the camera work and the visuals were really really good, and it very much became very much of a trippy feeling. It's not just feel like your stereotypical romance comedy. It felt like it was delivering something home, and a powerful thing about just how love can just hurt and just suck, and tough love as far as you know whether in aspects of relationships could be a thing where it can just throw it could throw you into a realm of like something that just that you least expect. So overall, I would give this film 3.5 out of 4 stars. Really enjoy this one. To probably be on my top films of the year, so you'll definitely see that there. And yeah, it's definitely not in the movie theaters anymore. But when people get you got a chance to stream this movie, please go and stream it and go and watch it on there and tell me what you think. All right, you guys, I'm out. Peace, and thanks for whoever was watching. I'm out.